Welcome everybody to today's session and greetings from Asia to Montreal. Our panel today will discuss the research and innovation priorities in Asian cities with a focus on finance and governance. So let me briefly introduce our four distinguished panelists. We will have Omar Siddiq, the head of Unit for Sustainable Urban Development at United Nations ESCAP with us today. Secondly, we will have Professor Wang Qin, from the Dean of Urban Planning at Tongji University in China. And thirdly, we will hear from Professor Wichibusaba Marom, or Professor An, Associate Professor in Urban Development Planning and Policy Head of Thammasat University in Thailand. And with that, let me hand over to our first panelist, Mr. Omar Siddiq, handing over to you.
Thank you so much, Lena. It's really a privilege to be able to share some insights on a very big topic. I think not only for Asia but also the world. Is how do we finance all of these climate and development transitions at the urban level, at the local level as well. So I am pleased to share some research that we have done at ESCAP jointly with other partners on this. And as Lena said, I'm working here in the Sustainable Urban Development section here in Bangkok, and I'm the lead for Cities and Climate Action and also managing the Partnership for the Urban Act project, which is funded by Germany's International Climate Initiative. Second. So the key research question that motivated our work on the area of financing municipal infrastructure is really what are the enabling institutional conditions which need to be in place for cities to be able to leverage long-term financing for sustainable infrastructure to deliver against global climate and development agendas. We wanted to identify policy actions that assist in developing a system that finances city-level projects rather than identify new methods of project financing. So really the discussion for us is around looking at the key determinants of systemic financing in the expectation that this would be useful for a research and policy discussion on how to mobilize finance by city governments. This research was very much led in a partnership with by ESCAP with the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, UN Habitat, and United Cities and Local Governments Asia Pacific for the 74th ESCAP Commission session, which brings together member states. And it was also presented at a local 2030 event at a previous high-level political forum. The URL for the paper is on your screen. Given the compact format for this panel, we aren't able to go into all the detailed city and country level examples, but you can retrieve those from that paper with the link. So colleagues, what is the infrastructure gap in Asia Pacific? What public goods need to be financed at the city level? What are the key components of a functional municipal finance system to support investment in such goods? Which govern relevant policy decision-making and action, and then what are the financial instruments which local governments have at their disposal, which could be used to leverage private finance for these investments. This is how I will structure the presentation, and particularly we're looking at private finance because this is a significant gap that we see in Asia to be able to deliver on basic services through investments in increased municipal infrastructure. So the ADB with ESCAP, we estimate that the total infrastructure investment needs for the region will reach about 22.6 trillion over the next 15 years, from 2016 to 2030 in a baseline scenario. The analysis for a selected set of Asia-Pacific countries over a 5-year period from 2016 to 2020 showed that public sector reforms on both tax revenues and expenditures can only meet around 46% of the gap, or about 121 billion out of the US 262 billion between current and needed investments based on these estimates. The result is a 54% gap, or about 141 billion US dollars, specifically for private sector infrastructure finance instruments, which is needed. With the private sector in the region estimated to invest around 63 billion at present, expanding the private finance by the required level is no doubt a major challenge. However, we see many opportunities to leverage private finance for climate-friendly and sustainable infrastructure investments significant at the time. Let's go a little bit more deeper into the specific sectors. And, we'll know that a range of urban infrastructure investments are going to be needed, many of which will be supporting integrated local government financing models. So this range of investments includes, but it's not limited to, water and sanitation. Asia Pacific's projected investment needs in water and sanitation for the 2016-2030 period stands at about US 787 billion. But with climate-adjusted estimates, which we were able to do through this research, we see that that number jumps up to over 800 billion. Investments for water supply and waste and stormwater management strategies and systems will be particularly influenced by the impact of climate change, as you know. So solutions will need to include local water capture treatment, reuse, building to district scale, green and blue infrastructure, for example, natural water attenuation, conveyance and treatment systems, integrated urban hinterland water resource management via land use and landscape practices, and also water-efficient urban and peri-urban infrastructure. Next is transport. Asia Pacific's investment needs for transport, again, for the 2016-2030 period stands at about US 7.796 billion. With climate-adjusted estimates, this goes at over 8,300 billion rather. Investment here in transport is required in mass transit systems such as BRT and rail, cycling infrastructure and bike sharing programs, infrastructure and spatial development for safe walking, electric cars, buses, lorries, and bicycles, car sharing, smart mobility technologies to promote mobility choices, and emerging technology in autonomous vehicles. The sector, colleagues, that has the largest infrastructure financing gap is energy in the region. Asia Pacific's investments needs in power for 2016 to 2030 stands at approximately 11,689 billion. But with climate adjusted estimates, this goes to 14,700 billion. This entails the shift to more localized and renewable low-carbon energy solutions, which will need to involve investment in a mix of district energy systems, thermal and electric, smart energy grids, including microgrids, distributed generation, solar, electric, and thermal principally, but also biomass, gas, fuel cells, and microturbines. Local, regional scale, centralized generation, solar, wind, and wave, and tidal, and electric vehicle charging and energy storage are all on the agenda for the region. The effects of the above public goods, for example, improve public transport on higher growth trajectories, cleaner water on lower morbidity, as well are well understood and often reflected in most development strategies in the region. So what public goods need to be financed at the city level? Where should we focus? So, you'll have investments that are more in the nature of public goods. So these are often parks, open spaces, green spaces. Often these type of municipal assets are a full recourse to taxes, to subsidies. You also have pure revenue projects, power, highways, parking lots, where you get a lot of also mitigation related projects. And these are pure revenue projects that can fully fall back on user fees and another type of charges to users. But second, the investments that are more privatized in nature, but also need some type of public funds to support. So we see that this second area, what we call the missing middle, where private capital needs to be supported by public funds, is really the key area that is lacking for sustainability and financing in the region. This is where you get water, sanitation, waste management, for example. While the above categorization is useful analytically, from an institutional and taxpayers' perspective, it is also relevant to look at the city's financials at an integrated whole. For example, some assets such as toll roads can service private equity investments solely for user charges. Then the city's balance sheet is freed up to use its own revenues for projects which do not generate cash flows, such as parks. On the other hand, if the toll road needs grant support from municipal revenues, then awarding the private concession limits the potential projects which the city can take up. So moving on how to address this, what are the key components of a functional municipal financing system that promotes investments in such goods which govern relevant policymaking decisions and actions? These are actions that enhance the power of cities to improve their own revenue sources, OSR, rationalize intergovernmental transfers, and provide the regulations for a borrowing framework that can attract long-term capital. And many of these have been part of municipal reforms in most developing countries, including in the Asia-Pacific region. Effective demand for debt financing depends on the rationality of the intergovernmental fiscal rules. These are the flows from central to local government, and the stability, rather, of own source revenues. These including powers for taxes and charges. These two factors principally determine municipal revenue streams. For cities to attract private finance and close the infrastructure gap that I explained earlier, they must have the legal authority to borrow, create, and pay for the use of the assets over time and de-risk investments by potential lenders by demonstrating clear revenue streams and effective governance structures needed to repay the borrowings, including capacity building to avoid corruption and other type of issues. These reforms typically consist of policies that empower local governments through rationalizing intergovernmental flows, such as in the Philippines, strengthening own source revenue, such as in Indonesia and Sri Lanka, and using specialized financial intermediaries for small and medium city financing, such as in the Philippines as well, but also in Thailand. Further, recognizing that smaller and medium cities' needs are perceived as too small because of the high transaction costs for financing for direct market access, many of these emerging economies have invested in structures to pool these demands of tier 2, tier 3 cities and lower risk through efficient intermediation. For example, the Indian states of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are a good example of that. And to date, just to mention, global pooled finance mechanisms have raised over $3 billion for small and medium city infrastructure. So finally, in conclusion, the experience from developing countries in the Asia region indicate that successful leverage is dependent on state-level actions to undertake reforms that empower local governments through intergovernmental transfers, own-source revenue collection, and support creditworthiness of cities within a borrowing framework to create certainty for subnational investment and free up municipal decision-making. If local governments, not only in Asia, but I think globally, are constrained in their basic functions, planning, design, and revenues, and institutionally hampered by functional and geographical fragmentation, leverage for climate-sensitive sustainable infrastructure would be limited. On the other hand, if local governments are respected, transferred their share of taxes, and enhance their governance structures and institutional capacity to manage long-term debt where it's allowed, they can be expected to leverage their own finances, reduce risk and exposure, and develop needed infrastructure. In such a situation, an efficient intermediation system makes leverage possible and sustainable. Hence, really the primacy of integrated policy actions on all three components of municipal finance. Focusing on debt and equity instruments is crucial. More than $340 billion has been raised by Asian bond issuers, according to JP Morgan data. So combining these instruments with enhancing the powers of cities to improve their own revenue sources, rationalize intergovernmental transfers, and provide the regulations for a borrowing framework capitalizing on the benefits and reducing the risks in an integrated fashion can really help to attract the long-term capital and contribute to positive municipal reforms for climate action in the region. All of these policy measures lie under national government control or influence and have supported evidence of previous effectiveness working in partnership with local governments. A final word on how to operationalize these type of enabling framework conditions for climate and development-related finance. ESCAP, along with German Development Cooperation and the Cities Climate Finance Leadership Alliance, has recently launched new tools to measure the enabling framework conditions for urban climate finance. Both of these tools have been piloted in India and Indonesia. They have 4 different dimensions concerning climate policy, budget and finance, climate data, vertical and horizontal coordination. And it really provides a operational roadmap support for countries to work on translating sometimes very complex issues such as enabling framework conditions for urban climate finance into specific capacity building and policy-related reforms. You can download these enabling framework conditions for urban climate finance toolkits and the piloting reports from India and Indonesia on the CCFLA and ESCAP websites. Thank you so much for all of your time, and really look forward to continuing this discussion with you as we go forward in trying to unpack the financing and governance challenges for climate-sensitive infrastructure in Asia. So I hand over back to Lena. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Omar, and thank you for this comprehensive overview of infrastructure and finance needs for sustainable cities in the region, as well as sharing your recent work on enabling environments. With that, I will hand over now to Professor Wang Qi, Dean Urban Planning for Tongji University, and he will tell us a bit more on sponge city development in Shanghai. Handing over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Lena. My name is Wang Xin from Tongji University, Shanghai, and my presentation is about the importance of integration using the case study of small city development in Shanghai. Next slide, please. I'm talking about two types of integration. The first one is the policy integration, and the second one is about the multidisciplinary design integration. And from the policy level, we need a vertical integration from the city master plan to district level master plan and to the project plan. So on this slide, you can see on the right side is the Shanghai Sponge City Master Plan from 2016 to 2040. So it is a long-term master plan. And you can see the city has 24 million people, and it divided into several sponge city zones based on the river system and the rainwater pipeline system. On the right side, on this map, on this planning map, you can see the red areas are where more urbanized area. So there are buildings, the land are more constructed, and they have more runoffs because the of the land are paved or been built. And on the left side, you can see from this long-term smart city master plan, there are the city level, they have set up main targets for the smart city. And the first one is comprehensive ecology. You can see in this dimension, the smart city master plan have defined the annual runoff total control rate is 80% for the centralized new construction areas and 75% for some new and reconstruction areas. This is the key indicator for the smart city. So if 80% or 75% of the runoff are controlled, that means the rains are being utilized locally, annually 75% or 80%. So the rainwater is used and storage locally, not directly go to the pipeline, go to the sea, or go to the bigger rivers. This is a main indicator, the runoff total control for the whole city. And then in order to achieve this target, the second indicator is about the proportion of green spaces in the centralized construction areas. It's no less than 15%. So like Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, Tokyo, all these cities have very, very high density, like Bangkok. So, but in our master plan, in the smart city master plan, they have been coordinated with the city master plan. There's no less than 15% of the land should be green spaces. And then we are trying to keep the river surfaces or the water bodies are no less than 10.5%. So we are not there yet. There used to be many rivers in Shanghai, but as the urbanization go out and go out, the rivers in the downtown areas are being covered and being built as road in the 1950s or 1960s. So now we're trying to keep and make more water surfaces in the city. And then there are the other dimensions like water environment, water resources, and water safety. So four dimensions are considered in this Smart City Master Plan, long-term plan from 2016 to 2040. So if you're interested, you can go to the government website. So on the corner, on the left bottom of this slide, you can see the plan from the Shanghai government official site. And next slide, please. And based on this long-term master plan, city level, so Shanghai city level master plan, each of the district level government need to make their own plan. So there are 16 district level government in Shanghai, and I'm using one of the district government plan, Yangpu district, where my university are located, have about like 22 million people living in this district. After the city's plan, the district government made this Yangpu District Smart City Master Plan 2018 to 2035. And after this, it included similar content as the city master plan, but more detailed. And then after this master plan, for the long run, the district government also need to make a 3 years action plan, which is more near-term plan. So in this 3 years plan, it will define the main projects and areas for the smart city development for this Yangpu district. So on the right side, you can see in the long-term plan, smart city plan, it defines again based on the situations and conditions in Yangpu district, what are the runoff control ratio and all the other indicators. And also the whole Yangpu district are divided into several zones, and each zones they gave different indicators. But in total, it will fit the whole district target of the smart city. And on the right side is a list of the main projects in Yangpu district under the smart city 3 years action plan. Next slide, please. So not only the policy level vertical integration, but also we need design integration or multidisciplinary collaboration during the smart city design process. Next slide, please. I'm using this image to say that in the urbanized area, you will see roads and plaza. This is and water bodies where all the runoff, all the rainwater finally goes to the water service bodies, rainwater, and the green areas where the surface is permeable, so the rains can go down to the soil. And then you can see the building clusters. In Shanghai, a lot of the residential building clusters are being gated. So inside these gated communities, there are also green areas inside. But in the new developed residential areas, by city design code, the green space ratio should be no less than 35%. So these are different elements. So either it's hard pavement, or it is highly developed building clusters, or it is green spaces or water bodies. They are different. They have different runoff control indicators. Next slide, please. This drawing exactly show why I'm saying we need a multidisciplinary design collaboration. So this is a section of the housing or office building. In the architecture design, the architects need to take care of the smart city design. It is by law. So no matter it is a housing project or it is a commercial project, commercial building project, you have to fit the smart city master plan. So you have to submit your calculation data and to show that the smart city indicators has been accomplished. And you can see the landscape design need to be integrated with the architectural design. And also the pipeline, the infrastructure design also need to be integrated with the whole building design process. And in the section, you can see the green roof need to be considered at the very beginning, and that means the rooftop structure need to have extra strength to carry all the load about. So without this green, without the soil coverage, the load will be less. And also, you can see there are consideration about vertical green, and especially under the in the parking in the basement, there is a rain storage tank. And the rain storage tank is important in order to achieve the runoff control target for this project, for almost every project, if it is construction clusters. Next slide, please. And this is a typical smart city design in Pudong. This photo I took in Lingang Xinchen in Pudong area. And you can see this is one of the solution where the designers are intentionally broken the rainwater pipe vertically. So the rain on the building roof, it goes down through this vertical rain pipe. And normally it goes directly to the underground pipeline system. But in this design, you can see the rains goes first into this planter, into this flower bed. It is higher than the ground level, and where the rain will be purified, and it will goes out again through this planter and go to the ground rain garden, we call it, which is a sinking garden where the rains will flow or stay there on the right bottom side. So you can see it is a little design with this because the early 5 minutes rainwater is not that clean. So we need this planter bed. We need the flower bed to do the purification, and also it will storage the rainwater for a while, and then it goes to the bigger area for this rain garden on the right bottom corner. Next slide, please. And this is exactly the different ways to do the rain garden, we call it. If you look at the sections on the bottom, on the left side, you can see it is a sinking rain garden, and with all the plantings in there, and you can also see the pipeline. So if the water if the rain is very big, the water rise and it is becoming too high, then it still have chances to go into the pipelines and to go to the municipal rainwater system. And there were different ways of designing these rain gardens. And in Shanghai climate, the control effect of total runoff volume is about 0.2 to 0.4 cubic meters per square meter using this kind of rain garden. And the control effect of the runoff pollution, that means the removal rate of the excess is about 70 to 85%. So these are the two main indicators. So the first one is about runoff control, annually rain runoff, and the other one is about the runoff pollution removal. Those are the two main indicators. Next slide, please. And again, you can see there are different ways of integrate the landscape together with the smart city technologies and designs. So you can see on the bottom left is the rain gardens which the plants are carefully chosen to fit that there are dry place times and there are pretty wet times. So it is a wetland, and when there's rain, it's becoming more. There's more water, and when it is dry, the plants are still can survive. And on the right side and on the bottom right side, you can see it is rain garden, or it is dry canal, we can call that. Is along the road, so you can see the runoffs of the road. It will goes into this dry canal. So in the dry time it is dry, and in the rain time the rainwater it's becoming a little canal. So these are the designs that integrated between the landscape and the road system design, together with the carefully chosen of the plants and the and aesthetics of this landscape design. So all this is only the how about the landscape design integrated with the smart city and the road infrastructure and building infrastructure. But there are the other projects, especially for the hard pavements, where the pavement are permeable. That means the rain can go directly down. So these are the other kind of the design integration. Because of time limits, we will show those kind of solutions next time. Next slide, please. Oh, so this is the end of my talk for today, and as a conclusion, that smart city concept, it is a multidisciplinary collaboration. It needs in the design stage, but at the beginning, it will need vertical integration from the city master plan to the district level, sub-district level, and made it as a design code for all the project development. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your time. And I hand over the floor to Lena.
Thank you so much, Professor Wang Qi, and thank you for sharing your experiences on how to integrate sponge city design and urban development planning in China. We will now hear from Professor Wichibusaba Marone, Director Urban Futures and Policy Research Unit of Thammasat University, and she will share some research and innovation priorities for localization and her case study for strategies along the Chao Phraya River. Handing over to you.
Thank you, Lena, and hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be part of this panel. So my topic today, I will focus on how we use land use as a main strategies to promote resilience settlement along Chao Phraya River, which is the main river for Thailand, to drain flood to the Thai Gulf. Next, please. Okay, so the course of this project is we faced a major flooding in 2011. It's about like more than 10 years ago. As you can see from the central picture, Chao Phraya is the main river in the central plains, and you can see that it's already underwater. Next, please. So the government have projects to improve the drainage system, or the most capacity to drain water from the inland to the Thai Gulf as much as possible. So as a result, the government came up with 9 major projects, and these projects responsible by Royal Irrigation Department under Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperative, which is the main acting government agency to manage all floodings. And most of the project is to develop diet and monkey shake and enable to widen the canals to drain larger amount of water. We involve in the number 1 and number 4 on the map, as you can see. We involve in this project, and we work with CODI, which is Community Organization Development Institute. The cause of this is RID, or Royal Irrigation Department. When they want to widen the canal, you can see on the right side picture. Of course, you can see that the yellow line actually, wider than the existing canals, and you can see that there is amount of informal settlement. along the canals that need to be think of, and whether they need to be relocated elsewhere or is there enough land to be the in situ upgrading. So Cody working directly with RID, and we are part of that. So you can see that there are two main rivers side by side, the central river, which is Chao Phraya, the left side is Tajin, and the right side is Bang Pakong. So I'm going to talk about that next, please. All right, so we work closely with Cody and RID to develop a preliminary impact assessment to actually see how many housing that need to be affected, and what are alternative strategies that we can also create a win-win solution for flood management, and also provide social and environmental safeguard for housing and people living along the canals. Next, please. So we have to understand the context first. I'm gonna quote the west side, which is the west side of the Chao Phraya River Basin, and the east side. These are the canal side context. You can see from the picture. Let's start from the east side canal. You can see that the policy need to be widen the canal by 70 meter. You can see number here, and actually the canal's existing width is about 54. So with the typical design of the RID construction, it needs at least 60 meter for the canal and for the road for maintenance and the dike. And with the east side canal, we have enough space left for housing settlement to be in situ upgrading. We need at least 20 meter to move people from the water to be on ground. On contrary, on the west side, we don't have enough land to do that, so it's very likely that informal settlement along the west side canal need to be relocated elsewhere, not further than 5 kilometers. Next, please. Okay, so these are the number of effective buildings and how many areas that we need to work on in terms of land use strategies. We rely these on the building data only to understand the bigger picture as quickly as possible. And as you can see, these are different building use, and you can see the comparison between West Side Canal and the East Side Canal. You can see most of the buildings are residentials and take up the most ratios and percentage of areas. Very few commercial and industrial. So we use how we calculate the number of buildings. We use the width of the canal that already want to construct the dike. Next, please. So with the number of buildings, we also did a survey about how much economic may be lost in the case of flooding because of these buildings, are actually located on the risk area, on the flood prone area. So we measures, preliminary measures like how much it will cost them in different criteria, like for example, direct loss of flooding, like you have to repair your housing, or cause of flooding protection preparation, like you have to move up your stuff on the higher floor, or even have the like sandbag to protect your buildings, or even income loss. um, During the flooding, they cannot go to work, or the cost after flooding, like you have to, for health related costs, something like that. So average household is about 50,000 baht, which is about 3 times higher than the minimum wage in Thailand. So which is really huge. And if we calculate that with the pilot area, the pilot area actually is smaller than the whole target area. The whole target canal is like 4 districts length. So this is only 85 households. So this is amount of money that you may lose. And with the West Side Canal with 104 households, this is the money that you may be lost. Next, please. So if you use that kind of like average data and calculate for the whole canal length, so of course on the east side canal is about 2,000 households, on the west side canal is about 400 households. The most difficult thing about the settlement is it's quite scattered. It's not always dense like in the inner cities. So in terms of land use strategy, you have to play wisely because you don't want to move people away from their existing location, because that also likely to entail like other living costs and other laws that they may have to adapt. So you can see the amount of the impact in terms of the finance. It's very high. So next, please. So Cody and I, they understand that, it's not easy to just move people. So we need alternative solutions and more integrated. So not just building the dike and, building housing later on. So we need both flood protection, we need to drain water, and also we have to provide housing for informal settlement along the canals. So this is why we involve, we do kind of like a strategic land use for resilient upgrading and resilient city settlement, which is also comply with the IPCC strategies that, it's very important to plan ahead, not just the band-aid solutions that, when you move people and then you find housing later on. So in doing this, we use CODI housing program, which is called Ban Man Kong. Previous slide, please. Can you go back, please? Okay, thank you. Collective housing program by CODI is a world-renowned collective housing in the case that community of people come together with collective land and collective loan housing program, and CODI negotiate land tenure security as collectively, or Ban Man Kong, or in Thai it's called Ban Man Kong, in English is secure housing. Next, please. So in develop the land use strategies, there are four main layers that we are working on. The first layer is a land ownership. We target the public land because it's easier and more feasible than the private land to negotiate for land tenure security. The second layer is how much land is left to build housing in situ housing upgrading, or we have to move them elsewhere. And it's more important is about land use regulation and building regulations, and also flood hazard area. We consider that as well. But I'm going to focus on the livelihood strategies, which we use the land use to provide a future livelihood in terms of like if people live behind the dike, maybe the water can be overflow, so there will be enough land for water retention, and also people will be disconnected with canals as they used to connect with canal for living and for their jobs. So what are alternative space for future jobs so they can also adapt with flood protection and also urban expansion. Next, please. Yeah, so in terms of this, we match the livelihood strategy in terms of social and environmental safeguards. So in terms of social safeguard, CODI is responsible for providing space so they can do collective loan and collective design for housings. So we provide space for social job, future job opportunities, and for environmental safeguard, we also use NPS as the environmental safeguard. And on RID is consulting potential project finance for die construction like ADB, World Bank, and AFD. So all these project finance, they are very, they have strict criteria about, to build die. It has also to have social and environmental safeguard as well. Next, please. So I'm going to give you example of the NBS. We use the strategies from the World Bank. So NBS, of course, everyone is more understanding about this is create multiple benefit in terms of like flood protection as well as water and food security. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. And also NBS is also possible for informal settlement. We also have another project with NTU that we work together, and it's proved that it's acceptable for informal settlement as well. Next, please. So I'll give you an example of the East Side Canal, which is the first pilot project that we're working on right now. So in order to promote the livelihood, the first layer is about we have to provide enough space for future job opportunities. Like I said, people will be disconnected with river and canals, and also urban policy also expanding. So we studied this and we can see different strategies that from the top and to the bottom levels, that there are different zones that this area will be changed. So we have to provide enough space for future job. Like in the urban zone, it will become more commercial industrialized zone in the bottom levels. Next, please. And for the environmental safeguard, we use NBS. So we analyze in terms of how much floodings in each location will be flood. So we use NBS like wetland, water retention to help people to manage flooding and also provide water security. Next, please. The last slide would be the governance, how we implementing this, because it's such an integrated land use strategy. So we have to work horizontally and vertically. Next, please. So these are the ministry. We have to work with 4 ministry outside CODI and also RID. We have to work with Ministry of Finance, Treasury Department, because they are responsible to manage public lands. So we can do housing program, and also Ministry of Interior that deal directly with local government. Next, please, is my slide. Last slide. And this is the mechanism. We use CODI as strategy. So the housing program have the city committee at the bottom act as the platform to coordinate across vertically and horizontally with different ministry and also local authorities. So I think that's it for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor N, for sharing your case study and experiences in Thailand. And thanks again to all of our panelists. We hope for the audience in Montreal, this was an enriching session. And with that, handing over back to Katie Oak in the room. And goodbye, everyone.